Today I want to talk about keystone habits. I'm going to talk about resolutions and goal setting, and specifically about the concept of a keystone habit or a keystone resolution. Hi, I'm Annie, and I'm less of a miserable cow than I used to be. I'm feeling about 3% miserable right now. First of all, I want to say that I love resolutions. I love goal setting. And I didn't always feel that way. I've heard a lot of people talking about how New Year's resolutions are lame, and I can see where they're coming from. A lot of people have the argument that it is just arbitrary to pick January 1 to make resolutions or make changes or improvements in your life. I agree with that. At this point in my life, I make goals all the time. I make goals all throughout the year and I adjust my goals throughout the year. So it's really an ongoing thing. But I have to say that I feel really nostalgic and special about New Year's goals. I think that it's particularly potent for me because my birthday is in February. So it really is the beginning of a new year for me. I'm going to be a year older, and I know time is arbitrary, but I'm just sentimental about holidays. Another reason I think sometimes people say that setting goals is lame is because they might have a history of setting goals and failing. And they also see other people in the new year. We all see this. Every year you see people making these grand proclamations that they're going to achieve this goal or that goal. And they're maybe really diligent for a few weeks and then their efforts just fall off and they don't actually end up achieving their goal. And if you've experienced this personally, which I think we all have, you might feel kind of bad about resolutions and a little reluctant to set goals. So that's why I think it's a good idea to have at least a few really easily achievable goals. Create a goal for yourself that you can very realistically achieve, and then just commit to it and achieve it. And then when you have a few experiences of achieving goals under your belt, you will start to think of yourself as a goal setter. You'll think of yourself as someone who achieves goals. You'll start to believe that when you say that you're going to do something, when you commit to something, you are the kind of person who follows through. It just takes practice, really. I do have a pretty high level of conscientiousness. I'm pretty diligent. I have pretty good follow through, pretty good focus, but I haven't always been the most self-disciplined. I think especially when I was younger, I was not as self-disciplined as I am now. And I think that self-discipline for me has been really a learned trait, and it's because I've gotten so much satisfaction out of achieving the goals. And really, when you achieve your goals, you just see like, wow, it's actually more efficient to achieve goals. Like, for example, if you're a really messy person and your room is always messy and you think to yourself, oh, I'm just a messy person. You know, you just believe that about yourself. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just a messy person. But then you put some focus and some effort into being organized and keeping your things picked up, then it might not be really natural innately for you to be a neat person, but you will see that, oh, wow, keeping my space neat and tidy is actually more efficient in the long run. And so I think that I'm not naturally like this, but I just love efficiency. I've just come to see really the beauty in efficiency. For example, I used to be someone who was resistant to exercise. I just thought of myself as someone who is not an exerciser. But I started exercising and I realized, wow, it's easier to be healthy and fit than to not be. So even though my default is to be kind of lazy and really conserve my energy, I learned that by exercising, I'm actually generating energy and getting more done. And I love efficiency. I think it's beautiful. And being self-disciplined is more efficient than not being. So I've come to love it. So practice setting goals that are easily achievable, and also don't set too many goals. If you have 15 New Year's resolutions, how likely is it that you're going to achieve all of them? It's much better to narrow it down to something realistic. Pick 3 or 4 goals and stick to them. But what I really want to talk about today is the concept of a keystone habit or a keystone goal. I think this is a really valuable concept to understand. So first of all, what is a keystone? In case you don't know, a keystone is a central stone at the summit of an arch locking the whole together. So then metaphorically, what is a keystone goal? It is one habit that has a positive effect across the entirety of your life. it might interlock and support other habits, and it just has a positive impact on the big picture. I really love this concept because for me, everything is so rich with meaning and richly interconnected. I see connections everywhere. And so the idea of a Keystone goal is particularly appealing to me because it's one thing that's really richly connected to a lot of other things. And I love that kind of conceptual stuff. So I use mind maps a lot of times because my thinking is extremely abstract. And some of my thoughts are more like not fleshed out logically. They're kind of impressions, and they're all kind of mixed together. I don't really think in a linear, logical manner, and it's really difficult to express myself in a linear manner. You might notice that from watching the rambling nature of my videos. I tend to go off on tangents and have a hard time staying on topic because everything's connected, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful how richly connected everything is. And everything is potent with meaning and symbolism, and I just get lost. When I'm trying to organize my thoughts so that I can express them and understand them really clearly myself in a logical sort of way, I use something called mind mapping. It's something kind of like this. It's writing out your notes in a way that isn't super organized or linear, but you can kind of draw connections from one idea to another. And for people who think in this really abstract kind of way, it can be helpful to get all that abstraction out of your mind and onto a piece of paper, but not feel pressured to make it super linear or logical. You're at least just getting it out of your head and concretely onto a piece of paper first. And then you can start to rearrange the things and organize them. And if you need to express in a linear manner, as in writing an essay or presenting, a video in some sort of logical flow, you can do that. So 2.5 years ago was the year that I turned 40. And, it felt important to me. I think my goals and resolutions for that year held a little bit more gravity because I was turning 40, but also because my little sister was going to have her first baby. So I was going to become an aunt. I don't have children of my own. I never wanted to have children, but I'm really happy that she's doing it because I get to be an aunt. And somehow this just held so much gravity for me, turning 40, being an adult, and this desire to be a good aunt that really played into my resolutions for the year. So I put a lot of thought into my resolutions for that year, and I actually used mind mapping, but I want to share that with you because it really demonstrates the idea of a keystone habit. So this is what the mind map looks like. So some of my goals for that year when I turned 40, be a good aunt. That was really first and foremost in my mind. And to me, the components of that, of being a good aunt, were to set goals, to model healthy habits, to take on challenges, to be a person who is interested in continual growth and setting goals and achieving them, and to sing and love music and be enthusiastic about music. I just wanted to be that musical presence in my nephew's life in case he was interested in that. We don't know what children are going to be interested in, but I wanted there to be someone in the family that was musical so that if he resonated with that, it's something we could share. And also with the love of exercise. I wanted to be a person in the family who really appreciates and loves fitness and is consistent with it. In case he had similar inclinations, then we could relate to each other in that way. Another goal that I had for that year was to continue to improve my dressmaking skills. I like to make my own clothing, and it takes practice, so I wanted to just keep that going. A lot of my goals for that year were to keep up with habits that were already pretty well established. So eating healthy, loving healthy food, being consistent with fitness, and loving and appreciating fitness. Those were things that I was already doing, but I wanted to just keep doing it. I've become a person who loves healthy eating and loves fitness, but it's kind of new to me. And at that point in my life, I think I was still a little bit skeptical. Like, am I really a fit person? Am I a fitness person? Because part of me felt like, oh, maybe I'm gonna fall back into my old ways and become inactive again. But that didn't happen. Fitness is really an entrenched habit for me now, and I love it. I don't think I could do without it. But at that point in my life, I was a little concerned. I wanted to make sure that I kept up with that habit. Another pretty major goal for that year was to push myself to socialize more. In the back of my mind, I always felt like maybe this was a key to breaking through into some kind of magnificence or, something better. Because I'm so reluctant and resistant to socializing, I thought I need to do that. I need to really give socializing a good go and see, do I like it? Do I not like it? I felt like it was somehow going to be the key to transformation. And I'd been putting it off for years, and I felt kind of guilty about it. I felt like I really should go out more, but I just wasn't doing it over and over again. So this was the year that I really committed to socializing. So my Keystone goal for that year, which relates to all of these other things, was to train for the Eugene Half Marathon and to train socially. By training socially with a local running group, I would be absolutely fulfilling the challenge to socialize with other people. That group met for several weeks, twice a week, and it was the most socializing that I had done in years and years and years. It's pretty obvious that training for a half marathon is going to tie into the goal to continue enjoying fitness and being a fit person. It relates to healthy eating just because the more you exercise, at least the more that I exercise, the more I crave healthy foods and I want to fuel myself in a healthy way. So those things tie together pretty easily. It might not be as obvious, but dressmaking definitely ties into training for a half marathon because you don't want your size to be going up and down, and it's just a vanity thing. If I'm going to be making a lot of dresses and working on my tailoring skills, then I want to be fit. I don't want to have a bunch of lumps and bulges to deal with in my dressmaking, because then I'll have to make a lot of alterations in order to make the dress fit me appropriately. Now, singing and loving music, that does not have a whole lot to do with training for a marathon, so I would say that's the one that's not related, or at the very least, it's a stretch. However, I do know a runner who, she plays a wind instrument, and she has some issues with her breathing, and she says that running helps her with her breathing issues so that she's, better able, and she's professional, she's actually in a symphony. So I don't know, you could say breath supports, cardiovascular fitness is somehow related to singing, but that one's a little bit of a stretch. So anyway, that's a Keystone goal. You can see that there's this one big goal that relates to all the other goals and supports all the other goals. So for that year, I achieved all these goals. I felt really focused and I achieved them. And actually, my nephew's due date was due the week of the half marathon. It turned out that he was born the day after the marathon, so that was just really cool. I performed really well in that race, better than I ever could imagine. I blew my own mind. I had no idea that I was capable of that. Anyway, my sister was at the race and my nephew was born the next day. And I told her, don't feel obligated to come to this race at all because you are so pregnant. But she felt okay and she sort of waddled over to the race. And so here's a picture of me and her near the finish line. So really obvious Keystone goals also a lot of times just happen to be at the bottom of the pyramid in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because anything that's, near the base is going to support all things that are moving towards self-actualization, moving towards being a whole integrated person. Physical needs are at the bottom. We all need air, water, shelter, basic health, and some people now say Wi-Fi also. So you aren't likely to become self-actualized if you can't afford groceries. It's just how it is. So diet and exercise are natural Keystone goals because they're closer to the bottom of that pyramid. It's about your essential health and fitness in the world. You really need to be healthy in order to move up to the next step of the pyramid. And being healthy is going to support you achieving greater goals. Okay, here's an example. Say you want to be a rock star. I feel like you're going to be a better rock star if you have basic health and fitness. I know there are a lot of rock stars that are, burning out instead of fading away. Maybe living hard and fast and not very healthy, and they're making really great music. But think about how much more of a legend you can be if you have basic health and fitness and you live into your 80s. I mean, I'm really glad Willie Nelson didn't burn out and fade away. I don't know, maybe that's not a good example, because, man, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, I don't know if I'm making a good point here. But let's say you want to be a rock star, but, you are smoking 3 packs a day. Maybe you should work on the smoking thing so that you can improve your vocal capabilities and crush it every night when you're on tour. Or here's another example that's not really health related. What if you want to write the great American novel, but your life is really disorganized? Your physical space is disorganized, but also there's like outstanding bills and those mundane chores that we all want to ignore and procrastinate about. If there's a whole bunch of those piling up, then those things, all that minutia of everyday boring life, can drain energy and it affects your creative abilities. So you sit down to write the great American novel and you've got, did I pay that credit card bill? Or I need to renew my health insurance. All these little things drain more energy than you realize. So even though getting organized and organizing your environment around you might be boring and it might not be your first natural instinct to keep things tidied up, if you have your life organized and your space tidy, it could support you in doing the creative thing that you want to do. So somebody who is not naturally organized might make a New Year's resolution to get more organized and stay organized. And that could potentially support them in achieving bigger goals and aspirations. So anyway, I love goals. Do you love goals? Do you set goals? Do you achieve them? And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment. Let's get to know each other.